करो. A very warm welcome to Professor Sanjay Kumar Singh, external expert in this Viva-Voce. A very warm welcome to Dr. Sanjay Kumar Sinha also. He is the supervisor. He is the former principal of Patna College, and all other faculty members, research scholars, and MA students. Today, the Viva is on a very interesting subject, and the subject is, can you give me the topic is Zizekian ideas of violence in the select works of Richard Flanagan. So first, we'll have the reports of the experts read by Dr. Preeti Kishore. After that, Nihal Bharti will make his presentations, and then we'll have the question answer session. So now we'll start the Viva Voce, and I request Dr. Preeti Kishore to read the reports of the experts.
Sanjay Singh, Professor, Patna College, Anshul, and dear students, this is report from Sanjay Kumar Singh, Professor, Department of English, College, Agra. Nihal Bharti has selected a challenging topic for his doctoral research titled Graduation Ideas of Violence in Select Works of Richard Flanagan, Illustrations, Knowledge. The present thesis is divided into 5 chapters. Chapter 1 is introduction. After describing direct right and wrong, the researchers frame directly the concept of violence and its 3 forms: subjective violence, objective violence, and symbolic violence. Chapter 2 distinguishes between subjective violence, visible acts and direct acts or physical acts of violence, like terrorism, wars, murder, and objective violence, hidden violence in societal structure and media manipulation. The researcher explored subjective violence in the narrow road to the deep north and the sound of one hand clapping in chapter 3. The narrow road to the deep sea portrays the horrors of the Burmese railway. The researcher discusses objective violence in Flanagan's Wandering, the unknown terrorist, the living sea of walking dreams, and first person in chapter 4. This implicit or implied violence is located in social structures like colonialism, capitalism, and media manipulation. Conclusion: in chapter 5, the researcher presents a comprehensive overview of the entire thesis, meaning that he brief summaries of all the 4 chapters, followed by some suggestions so as to minimize violence through justice, empathy, and social change. In his opinion, the researcher is successful in his endeavors and hereby recommend Nihal Bharti for the award of Ph.D. in the Faculty of Humanities and English of Patna University. Second is report is by Dr. Saryug Yadav, Professor of English, DEL, NIE, NCERT, Sri Aurobindo Bhubaneswar. The thesis is structured into 5 chapters, excluding the bibliography: Introduction to the Zizekian concept of violence, Subjective violence in the works of Richard Flanagan, Objective violence in the works of Richard Flanagan, and Conclusion. This dissertation constitutes a meaningful and original contribution to the study of Richard's literary author. It demonstrates all the essential qualities of scholarly research. Mr. Bharti has made judicious use of both primary and secondary sources, synthesizing them with clarity and critical insight. The core of this thesis lies in its exploration of violence, ideology, and environmental destruction in Flanagan's novel through the lens of Zizek's philosophical framework on violence. The first chapter provides an overview of the key figures, Richard and Slavoj Zizek, along with a discussion of their major works and philosophies. It lays the foundation for the analysis by highlighting how Zizek's theory of violence serves as an effective tool for interpreting the themes in Flanagan's fiction. The second chapter delves into Zizek's theoretical distinctions between subjective violence, visible and direct acts of aggression, and objective violence, which refers to systematic, ideological, and symbolic forces that perpetuate harm and inequality. The third chapter focuses on subjective violence as portrayed in The Narrow Road to the Deep North and The Sound of One Hand Clapping. Here, Mr. Bharti examines how Flanagan represents the physical and emotional toll of war, trauma, and domestic abuse. The fourth chapter shifts to an analysis of objective violence in novels such as Wanting, The Unknown Terrorist, The Living Sea of Waking Dreams, and First Person. Through characters like Mathiana, Gina Davis, and Francie, Flanagan critiques hidden form of violence embedded within colonialism, capitalism, and media manipulation. The final chapter, the conclusion, synthesizes the findings of the preceding chapters. It asks that Richard Flanagan's fiction, when examined through a Zizekian lens, offered a profound critique of both overt and covert forms of violence. In his considered opinion, also, the study possesses the academic merit and intellectual depth required for a Ph.D. dissertation, and he recommends that Mr. Nihal Bharti be awarded the degree of Doctor of Philosophy subject to a successful Viva-Voce examination. The final report is from his supervisor, Dr. Sanjay Kumar, Professor, Department of English, Patna College, Patna. The thesis critically examines the representation of violence, ideology, and environmental destruction in Richard Flanagan's novels through the philosophical lens of Slavoj Zizek's theory of violence. The review of literature is comprehensive and well organized, demonstrating the researcher's deep engagement with both primary and secondary sources. The research gap is clearly articulated and convincingly justified. The researcher effectively recognizes the limited scholarly attention given to applying Zizek's philosophical framework to Richard Flanagan's novels, especially in relation to themes of violence, ideology, and environmental concerns. By clearly defining this gap, the study establishes its originality and academic significance. The research design is coherent, methodologically sound, and well suited to the objectives of the study. The research method adopted is appropriate, well defined, and effectively aligned with the study's objectives. The researcher adopts a qualitative analytical method rooted in both literary and philosophical inquiry, which is highly appropriate for the objectives of the study. Chapter 1, that is Introduction, introduces Flanagan and Zizek, situating their major works. Chapter 2 elaborates on Zizek's theory of violence, defining subjective violence as direct aggression. Chapter 3 focuses on the narrow road to the deep north and the sound of one hand clapping. This chapter analyzes subjective violence through the traumas of war and domestic abuse. Chapter 4 examines objective violence in Wanting, The Unknown Terrorist, The Living Sea of Waking Dreams, and First Person. Flanagan's critique of the invisible violence of colonialism, capitalism, and media manipulation is explored. Chapter 5, that is conclusion, synthesizes the findings, arguing that Flanagan's fiction, when interpreted through Zizek, offers a profound reflection on the visible and hidden dimensions of violence. This research makes a meaningful contribution to the ongoing academic conversation about the power of literature to challenge dominant ideologies and reveal hidden forms of violence. By bringing together Zizek's philosophical insights and Flanagan's narrative artistry, the study deepens our understanding of the moral and ecological crisis of the present age. After examining the thesis, it has been found that the thesis is technically sound And overall, this is a well conceived and intellectually rigorous piece of research that makes a significant contribution to the field of contemporary literature and critical theory. So, it is approved by Sir and that the thesis can be awarded a degree in after conducting open Bible. Thank you.
Before I request Nihal Bharti to make his presentation, I want to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Rajesh Kumar Singh, Dean Humanities, who has joined us, and also Dr. Kiran Mala, Head of the Department of Sanskrit. Now I request Nihal Bharti to start his presentation.
A very, can I start?
Yes, yes, please start.
I think it's a very warm good afternoon to all of you, respected head of department, Stuti ma'am, my supervisor Sanjay sir, all the respected professors who are present over here, the research scholars and my juniors who are here, and all the respected professors, my external guide, Dr. Dhananjay sir, Dean of Humanities, Dr. Rajesh sir, who have joined online. I sincerely, I sin- sorry, I would sincerely would like to thank all of you who have given their precious time to my Viva. Now I am Nihal Bharti, and here I am present to give my Viva on the topic Gizekian ideas of violence in the select works of Richard Flanagan. First of all, before starting my Viva, I would like to explain to all of you why I have chosen this type of topic. So first of all, when I was doing my research, or rather I would say when I was doing my coursework, there was a chapter of Zizek. The chapter was taken from the novel, taken from the book Violence, and this chapter was introduced in my coursework syllabus. I liked this chapter very much, and then I decided to do further research on the same topic, violence. Then I got in touch with Dr. Sanjay sir, my supervisor, and I requested him to sir, to allow me to do research on this topic. And then he said, okay, he is the theorist, who are the novelists that you would like to take to do research on this topic or on this theory. So Sanjay sir suggested Richard Flanagan's name because he is a very new author. In fact, at present he is one of the most famous Australian authors of present time. He has written many books like The Narrow Road to the Deep North, The Unknown Terror. In fact, The Narrow Road to the Deep North also awarded Booker Prize in 2013. Now, the main reason choosing the main reason of my choosing this topic is there is a clear research gap because few researchers have done on the topic violence and few researchers have done on the novels of Richard Flanagan. But I did not find a single research which relates both the authors. So I thought, why not give it a try? So I tried, and I think I I gave it my best. So in my first chapter, I have discussed about Slavoj Žižek, his contributions in the field of literature and philosophy. In this chapter, I have discussed the key themes of Zizek's work, which is the concept of ideology and its impact on our perception of reality. He suggests that ideology is not just a collection of ideas or beliefs, rather, it's a framework that shapes how we view and understand the world. Another prominent theme in Zizek's work centers around examining the relationship between capitalism and ecology. He argues that ecological crises cannot be resolved merely through advancements or market-driven solutions. Rather, it possesses a challenge to the very foundations of capitalism itself. He suggests that addressing the crisis requires an overhaul of our economic system. Some famous works of Zizek are The Courage of Hopelessness, published in 2017, In this work, Zizek challenges the prevailing belief that hope is an essential element in societal transformation. Another famous work of Zizek is The Year of Dreaming Dangerously, published in 2012. This work offers a deep analysis of the wave of protest and social movements that took place worldwide in 2011, famously referred as Arab Spring. The next famous work is Violence, of course, which is the very idea on which I am doing my research. In this work, Zizek explores the concept of violence from a psychoanalytic standpoint. In this work, he discussed the two forms of violence. One is subjective and another is objective. He says that subjective violence is often recognizable, and he gives the examples of subjective violence like crimes that are happening in our society, terrorism, violence, murders, assaults. These are the crimes that he categorizes under subjective violence. But he argues that it is the objective violence which is hidden in the society. Very few people discusses the objective violence. He gives the example of objective violence like the poverty, which are often introduced to a certain sections of people by government, by systems. He challenges the state, which often does violence on minorities. So these are the things like which he categorizes under objective violence, and he says he hidden. In common words, we can say if a maid is working in your house and if you are not giving her timely salary, then it is also a form of objective violence. If you are working in an organization and if that organization does not provide you enough leaves or does not provide your salary on time, then it is also under objective violence. So these are I think the common examples that we can face in our day-to-day life. Then I have mentioned the research gap, which I have already discussed in my introduction. And then I have mentioned the objectives, that is to trace Zizekian perspectives of subjective and objective violence in the select works of Richard Flanagan. In my second chapter, I have discussed the Zizekian concept of violence in detail. In this chapter, I have discussed both the forms of violence. I have given the examples. I have given the real life examples which are really happening in our society, like Iraq and all the African countries. You have heard, or I think you have observed the famous scene in 2020 when COVID happened. Very few African countries have collected the enough vaccine that can be given to its public. And in fact, European countries made a very big collection of vaccines, in fact, more than even their population. So these are the examples that I have given. And in my third chapter, I have specifically discussed subjective violence in the works of Richard Flanagan. I have specifically mentioned two works, that is The Narrow Road to the Deep North, which is based on war, which is based on the lives of prisoners of wars. It is basically the story of Second World War. I will not waste too much time. I think everyone should read this novel, The Narrow Road to the Deep North. And the second work that I have discussed is The Sound of One Hand Clapping. It is about a girl which is marginalized in the society. She is a migrated person, and in fact her own father was not providing her enough. In fact, she did not get even proper education. In my second, I have also discussed the suffering of the main character Sonja Bolo in The Sound of One Hand Clapping, who is physically tortured by her own father, Bojan Bolo. Sonja was just 3 years old while her mother died, and from that time till when she was 16 years old, she is subject to regular physical torture by her drunkard father, Bojan. His justification for hitting Sonja was, "I hit her so she will know how bad it is and how bad I am." Ultimately, when she was 16 years old, she left home permanently, but could not forget the childhood trauma ever. The text also discusses how due to childhood trauma, she was not able to trust any male person, any male throughout her life, and due to that, all her relationships failed. In fourth chapter, I have discussed the object violence in the select works of Richard Flanagan. The first text that I have selected is Wanting, which is the story of Tasmanian Aboriginal girl Methina and how she suffered in the hands of colonizers. In this text, The life of Mathina changed when she was adopted by British officer John's wife, Lady Jane Franklin. The irony is this act was not done out of sympathy or something like that because Mathina already had her parents. But she was taken by Lady Jane because Lady Jane wanted to do an experiment with Mathina, whether she can transform Mathina into a British girl or not. In doing so, Mathina was forced to undergo all kinds of psychological torture under the hands of Lady Jane. Finally, when Lady Jane became sure that she cannot transform her, she abandoned Mathina in some orphanage where also the conditions were extreme and not suitable for humans. Finally, after a few years, she was forced into prostitution and where she dies due to drugs and sexually transmitted diseases. The second text that I have chosen is The Unknown Terrorist, which is the story of a pole dancer named the Doll. In this novel, the thing happens one day. The main character, the doll, spends a night with an stranger, and another day, that same stranger was caught in some CCTV footage. And later on, media identified that man as terrorist, and media also identifies that the girl named Doll, who spent the night with an stranger, may also be a terrorist because she was caught in a CCTV footage roaming with him. Nobody was ready to listen her side of the story, and in just one night, her life gets changed. The entire text is about the psychological torture suffered by Doll, and the culprits are almost everyone: the people, the media, the police, anyone. Anyway, even in this modern world, who is interested to know the truth of a pole dancer? And finally, out of frustration and depression, she commits suicide. My third text is The Living Sea of Waking Dreams, which is the story of 87-year-old Francie, who is forced to undergo treatment by her own children just because her children wanted to prove how much they love their mother. Basically, she is an 87-year-old lady treating her children throughout their life. Finally, when she was on deathbed, every children of hers, I mean all the three children of hers, thought now it is our responsibility to save her. And she was undergoing all the dialysis, all the treatment, which was very harmful for her body as well as her mind. And she was going all the torture, or she was forced to go all types of torture just to show her love to her children. So finally, in my last chapter, the conclusion, I have discussed the key points of all the chapters, and I have also discussed how Jacobian concept of violence is indeed very much present in the works of Richard Flanagan. I have also discussed I have also discussed the last text of Richard Flanagan, that is first person, in my last chapter, which is about the capitalistic society. In this, or a young writer who is not paid enough who is forced to become a ghost writer for some famous criminal, and he was forced to go all type of torture by publishing houses. He was not given enough money, he was not given enough data by the criminal which of which autobiography he was writing. And the entire chapter is discussed about the dark roots of publishing industry. So this was my research, and thank you for giving your time. And I would also like to clarify, my research is about subjective and objective violence. I have not discussed in detail symbolic violence as well as systemic violence, which Zizek also discussed in his book Violence. So I have just taken the two terms, that is subjective and objective violence, in my research, and I have left the next two terms, that is systemic and symbolic violence, in my research. Thank you all for giving your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nihal. Now I request Professor Dhananjay Kumar Singh to put questions to Nihal. Sir. Sir, please unmute your mic. It is muted. Sir,
Sir,
please
please
unmute your
unmute your
mic.
mic.
सर माइक आपका म्यूटेड है. म्यूटेड है. कैसे?
Dhananjay Babu, you are not audible.
Dhananjay Babu, you are
Your
not
mic
audible.
is muted.
Your mic is muted.
Kindly unmute that first.
Kindly unmute that first.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is it working now?
Yeah, thanks, sir. Right.
Is it working now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Uh, I welcome all of you. And it is certainly gratifying to see the way Nihal Bharti introduces his topic. At the outset, let me say the way he conceives and conceptualizes his concept is quite amazing. So now my first question is, since everyone loves peace, Nihal prefers
Yes.
to work for violence.
In fact, in
Since,
this present society, I think hardly anyone is interested in peace
yes.
because
No,
if
why?
all the
So,
people get entertained by violence. Nobody
my
gets
point
entertained
is,
by violence.
my
In the
point is,
movies, in society, in real world, everywhere is violence. By the way it is justified by government as well as media, as well as certain sectors of society. That is
yes,
something amazing.
yes. So, well begun, half done. Uh, what prompted you to go for this topic? I think you have already explained, but my observation is peace and violence coexist. And also, the world is passing through a deep crisis. All of us are sitting on a crest of volcano which can erupt at any moment. So, please explain Zizek's concept of violence and its kinds as it reflects in the novels of uh, Flanagan. Go ahead.
Thank you. Zizek basically accepts two kinds of violence, that is subjective and objective, which I have already discussed. And further, Zizek bifurcates the objective violence into two more forms, that is symbolic as well as systemic. Symbolic violence is basically when one is tortured in the form of language, when one is mentally tortured and discriminated on the basis of language, on the basis of gender, on the basis of color, anything that is symbolized. Like your color symbolizes that you are Indian, you are from East. Your language symbolizes that you are from Bihar. So on this basis, when one person is basically discriminated, then it is symbolic violence. And systemic violence is something when the violence is done by the system. Suppose you will see in the society when the where the slums are established, hardly I did not see any kind of like a dirt garbage trucks that ever goes there, or any type of government schemes that reaches there. They are the people who are often marginalized, who are often cut from the society, and we are the country in which the biggest slum of the world exists. Mumbai Dharavi slum. At least I think all of us know about that. So I think peace and violence coexist. Obviously, the society is surviving only because few people are peaceful. If all people are violent, I don't think we as humans can survive. There are still laws which punishes people who does violence. There are still laws and systems who rewards people who rewards people who talks about peace. Biggest example is Nobel Peace Prize, which are given every year. So these are the things I think that prove violence and peace coexist, and till the time these both things will coexist, I think we as humans, we as society will survive. Otherwise there will not be any kind of difference between animals and humans. Thank you, sir.
Well, theory is intimidating, and you have worked on a theorist. I was blissfully ignorant of it before I could go through your thesis. So, my question is, identify the significant gaps that exist in the application of Zizekian framework of Flanagan's works.
Uh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think there are few gaps which exist. First of all, the first gap is in Zizekian framework is I have read few research papers, and I think all the research papers put too much emphasis on subjective violence. They talks about subjective violence a lot. Hardly very few research papers talk about the significance of objective violence, and in I think in our society 90% of the violence is objective violence if you go in detail. And another thing I think the gap is we often ignores, we do not do critical examination of ideology. There are few ideologies which do violence on the name of ideology, on the name of religion. I think we ignore this kind of violence which are often done on the basis of ideology. And I think the third gap that which I find is in Zizekian framework is we often do not talk about the interconnectedness of subjective violence and objective violence, because of which the loop happens. See, I give you a very small example. Suppose there is a small kind of community which is facing objective violence. Suppose government schemes are not given to them, they are marginalized, they are discriminated, and as a result of that they do subjective violence. They spread crimes in the surrounded area. They do various kinds of pickpocketing and little crimes to just to survive. And what happens after that? The government punishes those people. They give punishment of prison of 6 months, 1 year, or something like that. And as a result of what happens, they again comes back to the society and do bigger crimes. So this is a loop that is continuously happening. And I don't think if people are recognizing the loop. First, they have to go in the very depth of violence. Then only I think in our society, the violence can be eradicated. And if you don't recognize this loop, if you don't recognize the interconnectedness of subjective and objective violence, I don't think we can eradicate violence in our society in the complete form.
Yes. At a time when research is being made in areas, particularly on Indian writing in English, you prefer to work on mainstream literature. Why?
Sir, I know most of the people prefers doing research in Indian writing, but that is the very reason why I chosen topic as well as my author both from foreign countries, because that is something that I find challenging. And I also would like to give credit to Sanjay sir. He inspired me. He always motivated me to do work. And in fact, without him, or if he was not my guide, I don't think I would have tried to go for such challenging topic. So I would like to give credit to Sanjay sir. And I think as a student, we should take the challenge. And I think in Patna University, I am the first one who is doing research on GJEC. I don't think any person or any research scholar have tried to do research on either Richard Flanagan or Slavoj Žižek. I think I am the first one. And that is something that makes me happy.
Okay. Another question is, which novel of Flanagan you like most, or by which you are strongly influenced?
I think the most the novel that I like most is The Unknown Terrorist, because there are many unknown terrorists that is existing in our society, which often we do not recognize. This novel talks about the unknown terrorist that exists in our society, that lives in our surroundings, and we often ignore them. And the unknown terrorists are the media, which makes the violence entertaining. That is something that gives them the TRP. The state, which do violence, and they justify it. For example, recent example of Trump. He basically, what happens, he kidnapped in simple words, I would like to say, he kidnapped a president from another country, and he give a justification like, I am the person that should be awarded Nobel Peace Prize because I am spreading peace. I would also like to mention the extremist groups which are formed on the basis of religion, which is formed on the basis of caste. And what happens is they do violence on another caste, on the, and they later on they justify it because they justify it by saying we are someone who is protecting our religion. The many there are so many examples of those organizations. I don't think this is the current time to name them, but I would still like to name them. The Karni Sena, they do so much violence, and they say we are the ones that are protector of our religion. In fact, Shiv Sena, certain allegations are also on Shiv Sena. I think I would like to skip the third one.
Okay, okay. Another question. You have discussed the novels of Flanagan. Could you focus on the theme, plot, and character of his novels?
Yes, sir. I took 4 or 5 novels of Richard Flanagan, and in all the novels, the themes were different. Like The Narrow Road to the Deep North, the theme of this novel is, it is basically discusses the psychological, the psyche of the prisoner of wars. What really happens with PWOs, prisoner of wars? They, what really happens with them who survives the war, who comes back to the society. And it basically, this novel discusses, they never, they never mingles with the society, they never mingles with the common people. The trauma of the war always remains with them. The another novel that is Wanting, this novel discusses the ecological violence which are often done by colonizers, the time in which colonialism was there. They extracted the resources from another countries and benefited their own people. I'd also like to name the novel First Person. The theme is, it exposes the dark truths of publishing industry. It exposes how tough it is to become a writer in today's world. There are, I think, so many themes in
Okay,
all the novels.
how does he portray his characters?
He portrays his characters as common man. He never portrayed any character of any novel is some like a supernatural type. He All his characters are like common men, which lives among us. We can relate to them. For example, the Matina, she's some aboriginal girl. We feel like she's the girl from some our own neighborhood. These are the, for example, the POWs, prisoner of wars. Many people have sacrificed their lives. Many, and in fact, in the Living Sea of Waking Dreams, the violence that is done on the 87-year-old mother, I was very surprised. In fact, I was very surprised. In today's society, we hardly recognize it, like if how old people are suffering. Even in their treatment, they suffer. Like if they are, if we force them to live longer beyond their age by giving all type of medical treatments, and we think we are doing something good to them, but that's the exact opposite. We are actually making her suffering more, because the treatment, the dialysis which are undergoing, which they forced to undergo just to show their love to their children and to their family, it is basically very harmful to their minds, to their psyche, to their body.
Well, comment on his language. Okay, leave it. Let's take another question. Uh, who are Flanagan's unknown terrorists? Once again.
Okay, I as I have already discussed, I think in the society, all are the unknown terrorists which do violence in some form or the other, which is with his own people or with other people. If you are not making the other people happier, or if you are not making the other people lives a bit more comfortable, then at least you have no right to make the other people lives worse, like in their worst situation. All the people, all the sections which are making the other people lives or the other humans life bit worse, I think they all are the unknown terrorists. And I think if we analyze in our own life, I think we all have done violence in some form of the other, because we are not saints. So I think we should recognize the things that we often do in our daily lives, and most of the things that we often do in our lives, daily lives, we ignore them. But when we deeply analyze them, we will find like we also do violence with a lot of people. And I think we should stop doing them. Now it's time to analyze our things. Now it's time to analyze the things that we often do in our day-to-day life.
Well, discuss in a few sentences the conclusion of your thesis. What are your findings?
Yeah, my finding is obviously there is clear research gap, which I prove by in the 4 chapters. My findings are: subjective violence and objective violence is indeed very much present in the works of Richard Flanagan. And my finding is also that this topic is very much this topic. I think more and more researches should be done on the topic subjective and or objective violence, because this topic exposes the reality of society. This theory exposes the reality of society that is happening around us. And another finding of mine is that we should do any kind of ideology which is often imposed on us, no matter it is in the form of government, it is in the form of media. We should deeply analyze it. We should not be followers. We should be thinkers. There are so many social media apps. There are so many influencers of which we often become followers. I think become a follower is a good thing, but now it's time we should all be the thinker. I don't, there is a very famous quote. I'm not saying you should think like me. I just want you to think. Now it's time we should all at least think. We should not be blindly following anyone.
So, thank you very much for all that you have said about Flanagan, and also about the literary theorist Zizek.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for supporting me. I tried to give my best. I still think there is so much things that which I lack. It could be better, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Dhananjay Kumar Singh. Now I request the supervisor, Professor Sanjay Kumar Sinha, to put questions to Nihal.
Uh, I would like to ask you one thing, Nihal. That is violence always pejorative? Is violence always used in a bad sense?
I don't think we should always take violence in a negative sense. Sometimes it is also positive. If some people is trying to harm you, if some people is trying to do some violence, if the violence is done in the form of self-defense, then I think it's good. We keep our army because we give self-defense as our priority. So violence done in the form of self-defense, I think it is a good form of violence, and I think laws also, support this kind of violence. Self-defense, I think, is a good thing, and in this violence is done. So I think yes, we should take this violence in positive form.
Do you want me to ask more questions? Is violence a new thing? Is it different from oppression, coercion? domination, or this violence, this concept of violence that Zizek puts forward is just uh, you know, old wine in a new bottle.
Yes, sir, you're very right. Actually, the violence, the kind of violence we reject talks is the all the kinds of forms of violence was already present in our society. And I think by the time the society was started, violence was it started right from there. We often read the story of Adam and Eve and what really happens after that they have two children, and first children kills the other. So violence started from there. I think by the time society will exist, if two people will exist, if there are the last two people of the that if they are just last two people of the entire world, not entire earth, that they will they'll survive. I think violence will also be present even at that point of time because one person will try to take more resources than the other people. If, and if just two people remain in the entire world, then I think there will also be violence and one people will definitely kill the other to just remain. So I think violence will never be able.
That will be all for today. And I, apart from all this, I must congratulate you on being a father.
Oh,
Dhananjay Babu, he became a father today.
Yesterday,
Yesterday, yesterday, he became a
yesterday,
proud father of
our daughter was born. And I think I'm very lucky. And this PhD Viva very
So you got a
always in my
you
memory.
got a double whammy, no, a daughter and a doctorate.
congratulations, Nihal.
Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you, Dhananjay Babu, for taking your time out.
Uh, One thing I would like
Are
to
there
say,
any? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sorry?
one thing I would like to say,
Sure.
uh, it's a pleasure and privilege to be associated with uh, all of you on this occasion. And by working on a topic as challenging and as diverse as Zizekian ideas of violence in the select works of Richard Flanagan, Nihal has established his credential as an outstanding researcher.
That's, I agree.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And he deserves to be awarded.
Thank you. Sir.
Thank you,
So,
sir.
wishing him best of luck and best of life.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Your attainment is quite in consonance with the desires, aims, and aspirations of your supervisor who nurtures your imagination.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All credit, all the hard work that is done by me, I would like to give all credit to my supervisor.
That's not it.
He was always saying,
Uh, Thank you, sir. Can I request the other faculty members, if you have any questions, Dr. Vibhash Ranjan, Dr. Preeti Kishore, and Dr. Anchit Pandey?
Not question, ma'am, exactly, just a clarification. What is the difference between systematic violence and systematization of violence? Can you present any example from the text that you have used for the purpose of your research? Any example?
uh,
Systematic
so,
violence and systematization of violence.
sir, I will try. I can explain systemic violence and systemization of violence, but I sorry to say, sir, I did not put any example of systemization of violence in my research. As I have already said, I did not give too much emphasis on systemic violence and symbolic violence. So I did
But
not.
all the violence that you have talked about, like, violence based on caste or even genocide or other kind of violence, they are examples of systematic violence. And the examples that I have used basically is the manifestation of the former. So basically, what I
About systemic violence.
systematic that systematic
Systemization of
violence
violence.
that is inbuilt in the system, in the institutions, in the policies, in the programs, that it will operate. And systematization is something that is the manifestation, like, any kind of violence, if it is taking place, then the system is, it is already inbuilt in the system, and what we have is just the manifestation of the same. So what I requested you to give any example from the text that you have used for your research purpose.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Uh, so I would like to give the example from. I would like to give the example from the novel first person. Uh, Basically, the violence which often happen with young writers, young scholars who comes in the field of writing. The entire system is built like this. Till the time you will not become a famous writer, you will be tortured or you will be underpaid by all the publishing houses. It basically exposes the dark truth, it basically exposes the system, which is which becomes something like that, which is obvious, which always give benefit to the publishing house, never to the writer. If you are not a famous writer, if you do not become a famous writer, even by the end of the life, there is a high chance you will be you the violence will happen to you till the very end.
Okay. And what is the relationship between ecological violence and capitalism,
Yes, sir. Ecological violence.
or rather the relationship or interdependence between the two?
Yes, that's the very argument that the world is fighting, whether we should protect the environment or whether we should support the capitalism. Very few people often say there should be a balance between two, but how will you make a balance? There is no measurement scale. So the world is moving in that direction where capitalism is always supported, and obviously, if the capitalism, if we become like a capitalist society, then I would say the byproduct is obviously you will do environmental violence, you will do ecological violence. Then only we can you can spread the very system of capitalism because the, if you want to develop companies, if you want to develop factories, you have to cut fees. If you want to if you want to make more money, then you have to harm somebody. That's the very main thing. Without harming anyone, you can earn money that will provide enough to you, but you will not become the richest person of the world, or you will not become the richest country of the world without doing anything. That's the very reality of society.
Okay. It's all from my side.
Okay. Dr. Preeti Kishore, any observation, any question?
Yeah, you have really presented very well. I just wanted to know you have put emphasis on the subjective violence, okay? And violence against person to person, man to man. I just want to know if you have um, written or done something violence against women, gender based, because that I think will cover most of the portion if violence is concerned.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. There are three texts of Richard Flanagan which talks about the violence that is done on female. The sound of one hand clapping, pointing. Basically, Zizek also talks about the violence which is done on women. And most of the violence comes under objective violence. And I think now it's high time we should recognize the violence, whether it's in the form of anyone. It's not just that physical torture. If you are not doing any kind of physical torture to women, then you are making their life happy. I think if I start, I'd like to go beyond the topic. I think the very first form of violence that is often happen with women is when the society was being formed, the first thing that happens with women is when she gets married, she has to leave their home and goes to another home. I think this law must be made by some men. Women ऐसा law नहीं बना सकते. So I think just for few hours, if you go to some stranger's house, you will become very uncomfortable. Think about the situation of a woman who, lives the entire life in some stranger's home. I think that is a very different kind of violence. This society do not even talk about. Thank you.
Any questions from the research, Dr. Anchit Pandey?
I do have a question. Nihal, first of all, congratulations
and you have presented very well. And you said in your presentation that you are the first one to work on Zizek in Patna University. More of a curiosity, that's a question. I just wanted to ask that how have you seen Zizek's idea of violence in a sense that Zizek calls himself a Hegelian Lacanian thinker?
Sorry, say again.
Lacanian thinker.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what aspects of psychoanalysis that Zizek performs have you incorporated in your research? And what are the books that you have referred to while organizing your framework?
Yes. Actually, Vijaykan ideas, Vijaykan ideas on the viewpoint of Lacan and Hegel, his Hegelian viewpoint. I have not included his ideas on Lacan or his Hegelian philosophy in my research. I have just taken one book of Vijay in my research, that is violence. I do talk about his other works like The Year of Breathing Dangerously or The Courage of Hopelessness, but I do not give too much focus on other works, and that's the very gap that is there. I think more research scholars should, but try to do research on the other works. They are also very famous.
Are there any questions from research scholars and MA students? Research scholars?
Where you just said poverty leads to the objective values, right? And that leads to the subjective values. But we never discussed about the epistemic violence which has been done in the society. Epistemic violence, the concept given by Gandhi to this part, you have not focused on that. You only talk about objective violence and subjective violence. And you said that poverty leads to the objective violence and that leads to subjective violence. Epistemic violence. Done in the society and which leads to the wave of feminism. Because basic mode of feminism is on that basis feminism got started. Means males are suppressing due to their intellectuality. They suppress the females by showing their intellectuality that they are very intelligent and they used to pull on the females. And meanwhile, this concept has been given by post-colonialism. This idea has been used by post-colonial post means post-colonizers. They have just colonized us by showing that our culture is inferior and their culture is superior. So, you have to, well, in answering one question, you said that if the rule of if the rule is made by the if the, that females have to leave their home and settle in the male's house by male. Then Bhaiya, who has made this rule that only the earning person will get married, and only the earning and for earning to get we have to get settled, we have to be well settled, and for that we have to also leave our house. So you have to focus on that. I've already told you that you have to.
You, along with that, you have also given
You
the
talk of
explanations.
women, the discrimination that they have to, leave their houses. You don't talk about men. Men also have to leave their houses to earn.
No, this is
Okay.
outside the topic. This this does not in any way concern Flanagan or Zizek. We have moved away from Zizek and Flanagan.
That in this contemporary era, we find females are suffering.
Yeah.
We find females are suffering from subjective violence as well as epistemic violence. So, through your perspective, so throw light on this. Throw
Okay.
light on this. Subjective violence and epistemic violence. Females are suffering from subjective violence and epistemic violence.
Yes, yes. If we compare to males, females are suffering more from domestic violence and abuse case. And I did not include Chinese Jesus viewpoint in my research. These are the gaps. That's why I said the more work should have been done. And how I think there are so many scholars, there are so many writers who have written something on violence that just old wine in some new form. And I think obviously my junior is has correctly said women always suffer more. When the society started, then also women suffered more. I think now also they suffer more. I think in future there will be a balance. That is why society will become a better place in future.
Are there any questions from MA students? Anyone? Saima? Okay, yes, Uma.
As far as my understanding concerned is that it's Hegelian dialectics cannot be separated from Zizek's idea, right? But there is slight difference. Can you elaborate on that? Whether the traditional dialectics aims for sublation into a higher unity, but Zizek differs from that. Do you have any concern or any idea of
Please repeat it.
the traditional dialectics aims for sublation into a higher unity, but Zizek differs from it? Can you elaborate on that? And then on the topic of violence, do you see any difference or divine violence and his idea of violence?
Walter, what Walter?
Walter Benjamin's idea of divine
No,
violence.
no, no. I have not read about Walter Benjamin's.
So this concerning the do you see any difference between the idea of dialectics and Hegelian idea?
Yeah. So Zizek also talks about Hegelian idea of dialectics. As I have already said, कि, uh, there are many scholars or there are many philosophers who talks about violence. Difference is I did not find a very major difference. The Hegelian philosophy also talks about objective violence as well as subjective violence. It's just that Zizek basically gave a new term to those kind of violence that is often hidden in our society. He just gave a new term of objective violence, and physical crimes that are often happen in society. He just gave a new term, subjective violence. Otherwise, if you talk about violence, there are many philosophers who have written about it. Zizek did not write anything new. He gave a new term and categorized both forms of violence.
We have now come to the end of the Viva-Voce, and now I request Professor Dhananjay Kumar Singh to congratulate the candidate Nihal Bharti.
Nihal, congratulations. And now you're Dr. Nihal Bharti.
Thank
So,
you, sir. Still a bit tough, but let me do it. What can I say? I am a
my
research scholar, still a student.
my observations, not critique, that while making a Zizekian reading of Flanagan's novels, you made it a point to keep the spirit of literature intact. What happens, people make it a work of history or literature. You safeguarded yourself. So, congratulations once again. Go ahead and best of luck, and absolutely your luck to have Dr. Sanjay Sinha as your supervisor. I'll be failing in my duty if uh, I do not say something about the head of the department.
Yes, sir.
Madam, the way you organize, initiate, or moderate the discussion, truly amazing. Thanking you also once again.
Thank you, sir. It's actually teamwork. The entire department helps, and that is why we are able to organize
Thank you so much for giving us your precious time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sir, we will get back to you. I'll call you regarding the report and recommendation. That has to be, I'll mail the report and recommendation, and the needful has to be done by you. I'll call
I
you
will
and
act
discuss it with you.
accordingly. I will act accordingly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, so
It's
we
okay
end the
now?
meeting now.
Yeah, yeah. We disperse. What happens?